My name is Jordan Gray, and I'm going to be using a PowerPoint presentation to discuss the topic of legalizing the use of marijuana in professional and collegiate sport. To start, what is marijuana? Marijuana, also known as cannabis, weed, pot, and others, refers to the dried leaves, flowers, stems, and seeds from the cannabis sativa or cannabis indica plant. It contains the mind-altering chemical tetrahydrocannabinol, better known as THC, which makes you high. The drug is popularly used for recreational purposes amongst young people and can also be used for medical purposes. Diving deeper into the medicinal aspect of the drug, there are two main chemicals or cannabinoids in marijuana, THC and CBD. Besides getting you high, THC can reduce nausea, decrease pain and inflammation, and help ease muscle control problems. CBD does much of the same, just minus the THC high. Many states have legalized medicinal marijuana, shown in this graph here. And as you can see, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Idaho are the only states where neither recreational nor medicinal use of marijuana is legal. Most states have at least legalized CBD products and or oil with low THC levels. 11 states, Washington, D.C., and Guam have legalized recreational marijuana as well as medical marijuana. Each of the major sports leagues in North America differ regarding their marijuana policies. Changes were made to the joint drug agreement between the MLB and the MLB Players Association in December of 2019. In the wake of Los Angeles Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs' death, the league will now be testing for opioids and cocaine, all the while declassifying marijuana, which is now considered on the same level as alcohol. Players will not be suspended for positive marijuana tests, they will instead be referred to the treatment board. These changes include the minor leagues. Marijuana is still on the list of banned substances in the NBA. Players are subject to random and reasonable cause testing, and those who test positive must enter the NBA anti-drug program. A suspension is handed down once a player fails multiple drug tests, with the punishments getting harsher as more tests are failed. Any player voluntarily coming forward about drug or alcohol abuse will not be punished. The NHL was the first of the four major professional sports in North America to remove marijuana from their list of banned substances. Recreational usage of marijuana is legal in Canada, where 7 NHL teams play, and this factored into the league's decision. As far as their policy, 1/3 of the league's players are tested each year for stimulants, narcotics, and cannabinoids, and the results are anonymous. If a player is found to have dangerously high levels of a certain drug, he is subject to a mandatory assessment by doctors working for the NHLPA's Substance Abuse and Behavioral Health Program, who then decide if the player needs treatment. Again, everything is totally anonymous. The NFL is the league that has most recently changed its policy after the league and the NFL Players Association agreed on a new collective bargaining agreement. Players will no longer be suspended for a positive marijuana test, and the testing period has been reduced from 4 months in the off-season to just the 2 weeks before training camp. If a player tests positive, his case is sent to be reviewed by a board of medical professionals to determine if the player needs treatment. In addition, the league has raised their allowable THC threshold from 35 nanograms to 150. Obviously, the league is shifting from a punishment approach to providing help to players that need it. Lastly, the NCAA sports much harsher penalties. Marijuana remains on their list of banned substances, and one failed drug test results in a student athlete losing a half year of eligibility. And if you think that's bad, then a second failed drug test results in a full year of eligibility lost. On the other hand, they did raise their allowable THC threshold from 15 nanograms to 35 in June of 2019. The reasons for legalizing marijuana use in collegiate and professional sport are abundant. To start, the league policies don't stop players from using marijuana. In an interview with Bleacher Report, former NFL player Martellus Bennett estimated that roughly 90% of players in the NFL actively use marijuana, and in the same interview, former NBA player Kenyon Martin estimated that 85% of the NBA players actively use the same drug. Some even consider the league bans of marijuana to be hypocritical. Former NBA player Matt Barnes claims that some general managers, coaches, and owners and members of the league's front office use marijuana. Another reason for legalizing marijuana use in collegiate and professional sport is that players are regularly administered opioid-based prescription painkillers, and the negative effects of the opioid epidemic are well documented. For example, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 11.5 million people misused prescription opioids and roughly 42,000 people died from the opioid epidemic in 2016. 71% of 644 former NFL players surveyed by ESPN admitted to misusing prescription opioid painkillers at least once. Additionally, according to a July 2011 survey by the Elsevier Journal on Drug and Alcohol Dependence, the rate of opioid use among retired NFL players is 3 times higher than that of the general population. Because of these facts, some players have been turning to marijuana, which they believe is a safer alternative for dealing with the aches and pains associated with playing a contact sport at its highest level. Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr told the San Francisco Chronicle in January 2018 that he believes that marijuana is a much better option than some of the prescription drugs. Eugene Monroe, a former NFL player and marijuana activist, told the Washington Post that managing his pain with pills was slowly killing him, and that he's able to function and be extremely efficient by figuring out how to use different formulations of marijuana. In addition to potentially taking the place of opioid-based prescription painkillers, researchers believe that marijuana could also be used to combat CTE, a disease commonly found in the brains of those with a history of repeated head trauma. A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that of the 111 brains of former NFL players donated for research, 110 of them had CTE, and lots of research has been done on the effects of marijuana on CTE in recent years. A study by several university teams in Portugal, Brazil, and the US found that marijuana helps regenerate brain cells in mice. The same study also found that marijuana can increase blood flow to damaged areas of the brain and can also help keep brain tissue healthier by improving blood circulation. Finally, in 2012, a collaborative Tel Aviv University study found that low doses of marijuana could aid in the long-term recovery of brain injuries. These charts from ESPN show the marijuana laws in the cities where NHL, MLB, NFL, and NBA teams play. And as you can see, THC is legal in most of these cities, just another reason for legalizing marijuana use in professional and collegiate sport. I was not able to find as many cons for the topic as I did pros, yet there still are some. First, marijuana is still illegal to possess, distribute, and or consume in some states, so there are still some legal hurdles that these sports leagues would have to jump through. Second, allowing athletes to use marijuana sets a bad example for kids who consider these athletes to be their role models. Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald said, "You've got to look at the bigger picture here. We're up here on the stage playing at an elite level, and there are so many kids watching us and trying to emulate us." Lastly, compliance with a league's substance abuse policy is generally not hard to do, especially in the pro leagues. Players often know when they're going to be tested, and they can adjust their private lives around their scheduled tests. The profitability of professional sports leagues is tied to the on-field success of their players, fan support, and the preservation of the league's integrity. The impact of the marijuana issue on sport leagues and sports governing bodies can be gigantic, so teams want to ensure that a player's job performance will not be affected by illegal drugs. Drug use could potentially result in an athlete's irregular attendance at practice or games, subpar performance, and others. Drug testing protects a team's investments in a player and avoids negative publicity that results when a player suffers adverse health or legal consequences that associated with illegal drug use. To offer insight on the topic from other people, I asked 10 friends and or family members what their opinion on the marijuana sports topic was. All 10 agree that it should be legalized in collegiate and professional sport, with some adding that marijuana should already be legal everywhere. Finally, it's time for my personal opinion on the issue, and I believe that it's time to legalize the use of marijuana in both professional and collegiate sport. The main reason for this is because of marijuana's potential to replace opioid-based painkillers, which are highly addictive and can slowly kill a person. Another reason to support my opinion is that if marijuana is not already legal somewhere, it will be soon, so it doesn't make sense to continue to prohibit it in sports leagues. Marijuana should be treated the same as alcohol. For example, players can drink, but they can't let it affect their job performance. This is the end of my presentation, and here's my reference list. There's one page and second page here. Thank you very much.